The story of David and Goliath has become a metaphor for the underdog story. It's a story about the weak who has overcome the strong, or someone who's hopeless, who wins against all odds, someone who is defenseless and meager, who becomes the champion. It's an underdog story, the story of David and Goliath. I remember my first underdog story was around 1980 when I was watching the Winter Olympics on a small TV screen in my parents' bedroom, watching the men's hockey team beat the Russians, who no one thought was possible. They beat those Russians who had won gold medals for years in the past. It was an underdog story that the American team came back to win. If you went to Appalachian State University, you also know another underdog story that we tell over and over again from the year 2007 when Appalachian State beat Michigan, which seemed like an impossible feat. It was a major shock in football history that this little team from North Carolina could do such a thing. Or it might be a story of a small town girl named Erin Brockovich who went after a giant corporation who was contaminating the water in her hometown. No one thought it was possible to win, but she did it. She took on the giant and won. David and Goliath stories are everywhere, and we love them because it means that the underdog has a chance to win, that it's possible for an underdog to win. But according to Malcolm Gladwell, we have the story all wrong, that David and Goliath story isn't about the underdog defeating the giant. Malcolm Gladwell says that the giant never had a chance, and that David probably wasn't the underdog after all. Because it comes to the story where the Philistines are battling with the Israelites. They are on one side of the mountain, and the Philistines are on the other side. And the valley is down in between them, and no army is moving. They're just standing there, waiting to fight. But nobody's moving because if one army goes down into the valley and comes up the other side, they're at a disadvantage, so nobody's moving. And they're there at a stalemate for days and days and days until they finally decide to settle the fight by sending their best person to come and fight the fight. The Philistines send their best army member to come and win this battle for them. This army member who is giant, who is armed to the teeth, who has bronze medal, who has a sword, who has a javelin, who has a spear. This giant named Goliath comes down the mountain into the valley, and he calls forth the Israelites to send their best man to come beat him. But they're all terrified. None of them want to come down. And King Saul doesn't know what to do. Day after day, Goliath comes back down, tells somebody to come fight him, but nobody does. Until one day, David, a small shepherd boy, comes to bring some food for his brothers who are in the army. He sees what's going on and sees what's happening, and he says to King Saul, I can defeat him. Everybody, I can imagine, starts laughing at David because he's just a little boy. But David is very convincing. And so Saul says, all right, fine. This is our only chance, our only hope to end this stalemate. And so King Saul begins to put onto David his armor, a helmet, puts on a breastplate, gives him a sword. I can imagine it's like a cartoon. It's like David being weighed down by this giant armor that is going to be his battle gear. And he can't move. He can't go anywhere. The sword is too heavy. He can't even pick it up. And he's like, this doesn't fit me. This is not who I am. I can't wear this. And so he takes it off. And he heads down into the valley with his staff, with some stones, and with his trusty slingshot. He runs down into the valley, and the Goliath looks at David, and he's like, who is this? What is this, little ant coming after me with sticks? What are you going to do, defeat me with this little thing? Goliath is just perplexed that the Israelites would send such a small creature to try to defeat him. But David is coming not to play the game that Goliath is playing, and not to fight the same fight he's fighting. Goliath is armored. He's ready for hand-to-hand combat. He's ready for swords to clash. He's ready for his spear to be used. He's ready for a close-up battle. He is ready to take on someone his own size. But David is not his own size, and he is not fighting the same battle. David comes down nimble and agile and fast and quick, and he is not going to fight close up. Instead, he's going to fight from far away with his trusted slingshot and his stone that he has shot over and over and over again. David picks up the stone, puts it in his slingshot, twirls it over his head, and lets it go. And he aims it perfectly into the place where there is no armor on Goliath's body, his head, his forehead. And it hits him so fast and so hard that Goliath doesn't know what to do. He loses his balance. He loses his place. He is weighed down by the armor, and he falls over, and David defeats him. David won that battle. Won that battle because he wasn't playing the same game as the giant. And even though people wanted him to do so, David wasn't really the underdog after all. He really had the upper hand. The giant was slow, wasn't able to move. He wasn't able to quickly go after David, and David had the upper hand. All because David wasn't willing to play the same game that the giant was playing and fight the same battle that the giant was fighting. Sometimes we're really tempted when we go up against giants to put on the same armor and to put on the same tactics that the giants are putting on. But David refused to do so. Instead, he put on the armor of God, the armor of love, the armor of peace, the armor of justice, the armor of truth, that he knew who he was, he knew who he was grounded in, he knew who he wanted to be. He didn't need to put on the armor of the enemy or the giant at all. Sometimes we're faced in this world with lots of giants. There are giants everywhere in this world. There's full of hate and violence in this world. It seems so out of hand. Tyranny seems to be overwhelming, and it feels like it's too much. It feels like the giants are taking over. The giants are winning. And sometimes we think in order to win that battle, in order to win that fight, that we have to do the same thing they do, that we have to fight fire with fire, that we have to fight violence with violence, that we have to fight hate with hate. But according to Howard Thurman, who's the spiritual leader of the civil rights movement, if we put on that kind of armor, if we do those kinds of things, then it will just all destroy us in the end. Instead, we have to put on the armor that is not of this world. Armor of justice and love that has come into this world to overcome the giants that we face in this world. This is what our faith is about anyway. That God doesn't come in a violent way, but in a loving way. And through that love transforms the world and changes it and saves it. And that's what will save us. To put on that armor of love and justice and goodness in this world so that we might overcome what we see in this world that seems to be so big and so powerful. We have to trust and know and have faith that our love and our goodness and our justice and the God that we serve is greater than any giant that may come. We can't be tempted to put on the armor of the enemy. We have to put on the armor of God, which is love. And that love will change the world. You know, a couple weeks ago, I was able to go see the monks who were walking for peace. And I was amazed, not just that they were walking for peace, that there was thousands of people who came to watch as well. And thousands of people who have come to see it. And we all stood in reverence and silence on the side of the road. And I thought, wow, this is an amazing small act of love and peace in this world. In a world that's so big and loud and hateful and full of violence, these monks are taking one step at a time to share peace with everyone around them. They might seem like the underdog in this world, and we might feel like that sometimes. But I think that's the only way the world will change, is if we will put on the armor of peace and love and justice in this world, and to recognize that that love is never an underdog, that David was never an underdog, and neither are we.